Hello, Emmanuel everywhere. It's Reverend Joel back again. Uh, Thank you guys for continuing to join with us as we take it to another Monday Night Live. Grateful. I got a special guest today, and I'm going to introduce her. But first, we always start with the praise break moment. Um, there's what has happened on yesterday. We lost one of our deacons, um, um, Marshall Beeler, Deacon Beeler. We lost him during a church service, um, and I was present. Typically, I'm never I'm not present in the Bay Area, but I happened to be there on yesterday. I had been working that weekend, and what I want to share with you guys as a part of our praise break moment, even in the midst of the sadness, of course, is I want to share this with you. So prior to service, I was standing with some of the deacons, and Deacon Beeler walks up. He walks up and he has a bag of peppermints, and he's handing one individual peppermint out to each of us. And so I make the joke. He said it was from one of the members and that they wanted us to have it. I could be a jokester in case some of you guys don't know. I could be funny. And so I said to him, I said, "Do you know what member gave you those peppermints, and do they like you?" While he was handing them to me. And he laughed and he said, "Rev, I always love you because you always keep it real." And I said, "Yeah, I'm just keeping it real because you can't trust everybody's peppermint." And then I said, he gave it to me and I took it. And I said, "But you still didn't tell me what member gave you this peppermint." And we just busted up laughing at that. And as I put this peppermint in my pocket, then I thought about it after everything happened on yesterday. What was the symbolism of this one peppermint to me? It was kind of like my last opportunity and engagement with him. I believe, and you guys could forgive me for believing how I believe, that I believe that sometimes we're given reminders. And I think from him to me, it was a reminder that to get all the sweetness that you can out of this life, because you only get one. You only get one. And so with that said, I brought on our worship pastor, Jasmine Opel Butler. And so she's going to sing a song for us today as we prepare for worship. And before I get into our charge for this week from Pastor's message, I want us to take us to the throne with the song. Jasmine, thank you for coming to Emmanuel Everywhere tonight.
Good evening, Emmanuel everywhere. I'm just gonna sing. I love you, Jesus. I worship and adore you. I just want to tell you, Lord, I love you more than anything. I lift my hands in total adoration unto you. You reign on the throne, for you are God and God alone. Because of you, my cloudy days are gone, and I can sing to you this song. I just want to say that I love you more than anything. Wrap me in your arms, you are my shelter from the storm. When all my friends are gone, you were right there all along. I'll never know a love like this before. I just want to say that I love you more than anything. I love you, Jesus. Jesus, I worship and adore you. And I just want to tell you, Lord, I love you more than anything.
Thank you so much, Jazz, for that selection. We dedicate this today's to Deacon Marshall Beeler, prayers for his family, um, prayers for our church, and many gratitude to the nurses that serve with our church who came in and just swiftly did all that God had trained them to do. Um, I'm still so proud to be an Emmanuelite for what I witnessed on yesterday, the love, the care, the deacons who jumped into action, everybody who jumped into action. And regardless of what we thought the results were, God, um, God is still God. He still orchestrates birth, orchestrates death. And so we continue to pray for that, not only him, but for the mass shooting that happened again at another nightclub. There continues to be violence and everything in this world. So we want to lift that up and continue to be in prayer and engage together in prayer. And okay, we that praise break and that praise moment, somber. Thank you, Jazzy. And so I want to talk to you today about our charge for this week. On yesterday, Pastor Jason took us through the last installment of Did He Say That series. And this one was called, the sermon title called, I'll Take It Back. And it was out of the parable out of Matthew 25, 14 through 30. And it was the parable where the master went away on a long trip and gave his servants, 3 servants, talents. One got 5, the other got 2, the other got 1. And in this parable from Jesus, you see the correlation between Jesus being the master and us being like the servants. And 20 years worth of wages was 1 talent. And so one person was given 5, the other 2, the other 1. And the master gave each as it was manageable to that person. The key verse is 15b. He divided what talents that they got based on their own abilities. Everybody didn't get the same talent. And then Pastor kind of brought us in with the movie Bruce Almighty, great movie. I think you might have seen that I threw a clip in a movie about Smite the Almighty Smiter from Bruce Almighty. I put that on our page as well. But it was about Bruce Almighty getting those gifts from God, but he was selfish with those, and he had to find a way how to learn how to use those gifts to help everyone. But so let me just jump to the key warning from Pastor's message that I want to accent today. And if I had to put a subject on it, I would call it Star Search for what I'm going to give about this key part of his message. It was basically a key warning. It is unhealthy and inhibiting for us to use comparison to judge where we are against others. Comparison assumes we all have started from the same place. These are the words from Pastor. And they got the levels of talent. Maybe they got levels of talent that were not yours, but sometimes we can feel like we are losing when we are winning while we're comparing. And so that's comparing ourselves to others, comparing our lives to others. It's a dangerous, unhealthy thing when you don't know the starting place of that person. They may have gotten started sooner than you. These are parts of the elements of what Pastor spoke on yesterday. And so what I like to talk to you a bit today about is Star Search. Star Search, different little flip to what do we do this week to walk into the message from Pastor. And like I said, whatever you got out of the message, feel free to go in a comment, put in the chat. I do go back and review comments. Definitely, go and put in some things that you got out of it or whatever you might be thinking as well. But long before American Idol, The Voice, Sunday's Best, or America's Got Talent, there was a show called Star Search. It was from 1983 to 1995, hosted by Ed McMahon. And on this show, four judges would listen and hear each contestant to determine if they had talent. And if they had talent, they could win $100,000 and possibly get a record contract. Here's some notable winners: Shanice, the singer, Sam Harris, Leanne Rhymes, and anyone who can remember is Tracy Spencer. They all went on to record deals and stardom because of their talents. One thing that Pastor mentioned very thoroughly yesterday is that few places, few people, and few systems that we can trust to judge ability. There are few places, few people, and few systems that we can trust to judge ability. And with this thought, from that message, and now what do we do this week? I want to ensure we are challenged for this week. It is not to give up when we think that the star search is over. Don't give up when you think the star search is over. How many of us quit when we tried our talent, compared ourselves to someone else, and in our eyes, we didn't win. We didn't come close. We stopped. This week, ask yourself, what are you doing with your talents? This is not just your resources, but also the gifts that God has given you that only multiply his investment in you when the world is touched and blessed by those gifts. So let me share some of them that kept going, because that's the charge for us, is to not become complacent with our gifts. We got to keep going. Don't compare yourself to others. God has given you a portion of talent that's just for you. And so here are some people that kept it going, so to speak. The singer Tori Kelly lost on Star Church, but she kept going. There's a group called Girls Time. They lost on Star Search. They kept going and they became Destiny's Child. There's a comedian named Dave Chappelle who lost on Star Search, and he went on to become what many people would call a goat of a comedian. An 11-year-old boy named Justin Timberlake lost on Star Search, but he kept going. Here is my point and your shout as I come to a close with this week's live. You can't stop because a few judges say no when they are not the givers of your talents. In all those cases of those who lost, somebody was watching them, knowing that they were stars. If you're looking for a cheer squad, look no further to him who sits high and looks low upon your life, and he is the one that gave you the talents that you had. Look no further. He knew that you were a star before you were formed in your mother's womb. So keep on using your talents. And when you meet God and he asks the questions like he did to the servant in the parable, your talents will be multiplied because you didn't keep it to yourself. You didn't use all God gave you just for yourself. You gave all that you had and multiplied that talent. And so don't let the devil trick us in this life so that God takes back our talents because we buried them like the third servant. Use whatever God gave you, large or small, because you are your own star. I believe that that's the challenge and the charge for this week, that we have to remember that God is the only one who's given us everything that we have. And whether you have a lot or a little, God has given you enough to make a difference. My grandmother always said this phrase to me that I never forgot. And she said, God has no hands or feet but us. Meaning that if we're going to show who God is to the world, you've got to get and use your hands and feet and move and touch all that you can. And so that's a message for us in itself. And so all my charges to you today is to continue to move forward, as Pastor would say, and use our talents for the Lord. That's our time, talents, treasures, All that belongs to him. Pastor Gaines used to say all the time that a cattle of 1,000 hill belongs to him. And that's a text that he always would quote. And so we know that God owns everything. No need for us to compare what we have to somebody else. I can't compare who God made me to somebody else that I would hold back on who I am or not give for myself because I feel like I'm little in comparison to somebody else. Nope. I know, like you know, God has made me who I am, and I'm a star in his eyes, and you're a star in his eyes. That's all I got for tonight. I want to try to keep these brief, but I do want to go to the chat because we do have some comments. Mother Martha, my gifts are my gifts, and I should utilize them to the fullest. Amen. God gives us gifts. We must fulfill them and never give up. Sometimes it takes 99 times, and 100 times is when it all comes together. Amen. Job says, personally, it's difficult sometimes to distinguish between a true talent and something we want to be talented at. There are a bunch of horrible singers on all the singing shows, and they think they have talent. That's true. It's true. But if you don't keep singing and you don't keep working at it, if those singers stop singing, and I'll give you a good example, Joe. If you go, and this wasn't for Star Search, this was on Today's Show. Gabby Wilson became the singer known as Her. If you listen to her as a child, she doesn't look like she's going to be much of a singer. If you listen, she doesn't seem to be, she's kind of on and off key. She's little. I think she starts singing like at 6 or 7 years old, and she sounds like that. But when you hear her voice today, my goodness, she has a gift. And so what I mean to say is, if she had stopped because somebody said you didn't sound good, if she didn't work at it, it's just like anybody else. If I'm playing basketball, if I never worked at it, I would never get better. And so I think that that's kind of my take on it, that yeah, it's tough to judge talent, but we know that God gave us all something, and you got to keep working until you find out what that is. And that's kind of what our young folk are doing. They're finding their way in the world. They're going to college. They're figuring out what their majors are, and they're finding their way in the world. Well, that's all I got for today. Thank you guys for coming on Emmanuel Everywhere. We continue to be in prayer. Keep looking out for the great things we have coming. I know that we got some stuff coming up, and you'll be hearing more and more about it soon, like the Hoop program that Joe is working on. We're definitely going to do our prayer, our old school prayer meeting, and then we got some other things lined up that we want to do in this new year. And so we're going to continue to grow together. So God bless you guys. I love you. Have a good night. And feel free to come back at any time, ask me any questions. And by all means, if you're dealing with something in this tough season, it's Thanksgiving, please reach out to me, send me a message. You can send me a direct message if you choose, and you don't want to post it on Emmanuel Everywhere. Just send me a direct message in Messenger about what you need to be in prayer for, and I will come on and pray for you in person for whatever you're going with. This is a tough time, tough season. We have a lot to be thankful for this week. And so I would admonish anyone to sit around and think about that message from Marshall Beeler to try to take the sweetness that you can out of life, because you only got one. Enjoy it with your family. All right. God bless y'all. Good night.